Frisco 911, what is the location of the emergency?
Hi, we're at Tyson Doll Stadium. My friend just got stabbed.
Now, for the first time, we're seeing the footage that helped convince jurors Karmelo Anthony was guilty of murdering Austin Metcalf.
What's your name, man?
Karmelo Anthony, K-A-R-M-E-L-O.
Shocking new body cam captures Anthony's first words about what he claims happened.
Frisco 911, what is the location of your at Tyson Doll Stadium? My friend just got stabbed. That call, those words, that is where everything begins. A track meet on a spring afternoon in Frisco, Texas, and within seconds of that 911 call hitting dispatch, a 17-year-old named Austin Metcalf was already bleeding out on the ground while coaches pressed their hands to his chest trying to keep him alive. And a 17-year-old named Karmelo Anthony was already walking away.
Frisco 911, what is the location of the emergency?
Hi, we're at Tyson Doll Stadium. My friend just got stabbed.
Okay, do you know who stabbed him?
We have no clue. He was sitting in our tent, but you need to send an ambulance right now.
They're on the way, okay? Give me a description of the person that stabbed him.
He was wearing a gray Essentials hoodie. He was black. He's standing out on the track right now.
He's standing on the track?
Yeah.
Okay.
His blue sweatpants on and done.
Okay, what did he stab your friend with?
I don't know. My friend's bleeding everywhere.
Okay. Where was he stabbed at?
The chest.
Okay. And do you still see the person that stabbed him, or did he leave?
It was Austin. Austin got stabbed in the chest. I'm sorry, what did you say?
The person that stabbed him, is he still there? Do you still see him?
Now picture this. Imagine two teenagers who both showed up to the same track meet that morning with their whole lives in front of them. One of them never made it home. The other one is now sitting in a Texas prison with a 35-year sentence hanging over his head. And for the first time, the world is actually seeing the video that the jury saw. The body cam.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
But does the video tell a different story? We have the body cam, the surveillance, and the moments that turned track meet mayhem into a cold-blooded murder. We're on The Case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
The surveillance footage, the knife, the moment, all of it. And what it shows is somehow more complicated and more haunting than anyone expected. Before we go any further into what this footage actually reveals, make sure you are subscribed to Celebrity Newspedia, because we do not just cover the drama, we expose what the headlines are hiding. Hit that subscribe button right now because this one goes deep. So let us start from the beginning, because context is everything here. Karmelo Anthony, a senior at Centennial High School, ended up under the tent belonging to Austin Metcalf's track team during a meet in April of 2025. The defense argued he was invited. He knew someone there. His girlfriend's friend, a kid named Eddie, was on that team and supposedly waved him over. The prosecution said the opposite. They said Karmelo had no business being under that tent. He was told to leave. And when he did not leave, words turned into a shove, and that shove turned into a stabbing. Austin Metcalf shoved Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony pulled a knife from his backpack and stabbed Austin once in the chest. The medical examiner testified that the wound was unsurvivable.
Coaches detained Karmelo until police arrived, and you hear in that call so much chaos and panic as people are tending to Austin Metcalf. Austin would die from a stab wound to the chest, and at trial, the medical examiner said there was no way that Austin could have survived an injury that severe. Now, this is a 911 call from a coach who was trying to save Austin's life.
There was no surgical intervention in the world that could have saved Austin Metcalf on that track. He died there. A jury convicted Karmelo Anthony of murder in about 3 hours. That same afternoon, 3 hours after the guilty verdict, that same jury sentenced him to 35 years in a Texas state prison. Now here is where the newly released footage changes the entire texture of this story. The surveillance video everyone has been waiting to see. It is blurry, painfully blurry, shot from a camera mounted on top of a football stadium pointing all the way down at a tent full of people. You can see movement. You can see what appears to be a shove. You can see someone break away and run toward the bleachers. But you cannot clearly make out faces. You cannot clearly see a knife. The prosecution had to bring in a forensic video analyst just to explain who was who in the footage before they played it for the jury, because without that setup, you would have no idea what you were looking at. That is the video that helped send a 17-year-old to prison for 35 years. But the receipts.
Yeah. If you remember what I described, Chris, I described it that same way. You can tell that it's very zoomed in. It's over pixelated because, the camera's coming from across the football field. But of course, everyone has highlighted the moment, that everyone's, dissected it, and you see what is, assumed to be the shove. And you can see, again, the force of the shove. You see that it's a push. But other than that, you can't really, even in the courtroom, it was never specified because it was a big deal about who was standing, who was sitting, who was where, who was this and that. It was never really specified under the tent who was who. Of course, after the shove, you see immediately 2 to 3 seconds later, you see Karmelo, who is highlighted and spot shadowed, run, to the 3 or 4 or 5 bleachers up, which is also where the knife was found. That's where the knife was found, where they threw it and the body cam caught it up. But then you see him running away. But that's about the only, distinguished individual we see in that video. But of course, what stands out is just the moment itself, because the minutes leading up to the moment are just, people are just there. It's just these humanoid figures under the tent. You see people walking by. There's not really much of a commotion happening outside of the shove. And even when you watch the moment of the shove, you don't really see too much going on outside of
the body cam footage is something else entirely. Officers arrived on scene. Karmelo Anthony was already in handcuffs. And in those raw, unfiltered moments, before any lawyer, before any coaching, before any strategy, here is what came out of his mouth. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me. That is the statement he made on the track to the officers. And moments later, when another officer told him he was an alleged suspect, Karmelo Anthony said, I know how this goes. I'm not alleged. I did it. He put his hands on me. And then here is the part that nobody was prepared for. Right after that statement, right after that almost eerily calm admission, there is this sound, a sob, a crack in his voice.
Yeah, it was kind of a stark dichotomy, Chris, because, he's been painted out to be by the prosecution,
This kid who had just stabbed another kid and calmly told an officer he did it breaks down crying. And then 15 seconds later, he is spelling his name out to police. Carmelo, Centennial High School, 12th grade. Completely composed. He put his hands on me. Here is the question that this footage raises and nobody has cleanly answered. If this video was always going to be this blurry, if the surveillance footage was always going to be this inconclusive, and if the prosecution knew before trial that their strongest visual evidence was pixels and a body cam clip where the defendant calmly admitted to the stabbing while also crying, was the story the jury was told really the full picture? Or is there an entire layer of this case, the fear, the context, the seconds between the shove and the knife, that no camera ever captured and no testimony ever fully explained? Because here is what that footage cannot show you. It cannot show you what was going through Karmelo Anthony's mind in the fraction of a second between feeling that shove and reaching into that backpack. The subjective experience of a 17-year-old in that moment is permanently invisible to any camera, and yet that invisible moment is exactly what the entire self-defense argument hinged on. Now add in the Eddie situation. The defense argued Karmelo was invited into that tent by Eddie, a teammate of Austin's who knew Karmelo through his girlfriend. And when Eddie took the stand for the prosecution, he basically said they were not close, not really friends. And then the defense dropped photos of the two of them together at Eddie's grandmother's birthday party, playing Guitar Hero, hanging out at each other's houses.
Someone who was very close with Austin Metcalf. And if I remember correctly, he kind of backed off saying that he knew Karmelo Anthony at all. And some points for the defense, if you want to say that, was that they were arguing that he was invited into the tent, Karmelo Anthony, because Eddie waved him over. And to prove that they had some sort of relationship, the defense presented these pictures of Eddie and Karmelo. And I was not anticipating them to look as friendly as they do in these images, where it does raise some questions as to why he wasn't more straightforward, it seems, in that moment, that he knew Karmelo Anthony through his girlfriend and they had hung out before. I mean, there's a picture here of them playing Guitar Hero together, which was not something that I was anticipating just based off what he had told the jury when the state was questioning him.
The jury saw those pictures and then sentenced Karmelo Anthony to 35 years anyway. He put his hands on me. The knife is now public too, and it is not a Swiss Army knife. It is not a camping tool. It is a heavy-duty folding knife. The kind, as one officer testified during a demonstration, that officers carry on duty for cutting seat belts in car crashes. The prosecution showed it to the jury up close, right in front of the jury box. Feet away, they could reach out and almost touch it. Does a 17-year-old bring that knife to a track meet because he planned to use it? Or does a 17-year-old bring that knife to a track meet for a dozen other reasons that never got fully answered in that courtroom?
It knows, but to the point I was making just a second ago, the speed at which the stab happened, they were pretty much saying, some of these student witnesses and the prosecution, of course, was compounding upon it, was that, the whole touch me and see what happens. His hand's in the bag for, however many seconds it was in the bag before everything went down. They're trying to say that put his hand on the knife, opened it while it was in the bag. So once whatever he felt was going to happen, the knife was ready to go, right? That wasn't, proven, as a fact, obviously. The defense was saying, oh, it was just a warning and this and that. But the speed at which people were saying this happened, like in the blink of an eye, they didn't even realize, like even the people who were watching what happened, you know, Austin shoves, whatever happens in 2 seconds, they did not realize Austin was stabbed until he lifted his shirt and blood's everywhere. So that was the whole argument there. Like this knife had to have been opened when it was in the bag. And that was the point of when they were doing the demonstration with the cop, showing, you know, because he's holding the bag with one hand's in the bag, that you could flip it open with one.
That question did not stop the conviction, but it did not disappear either. Here is what the comment section needs to answer right now. You have seen the footage. You have seen the surveillance video, the body cam, the knife, the pictures of Karmelo and Eddie together. Knowing everything you know, do you believe the jury had the full story? Or is there something this evidence leaves permanently unanswered? Drop your honest take below. If this kind of breakdown is what you are looking for, like this video, share it with someone who has been following this case, subscribe to Celebrity Newspedia, and turn on notifications. We cover the biggest stories in the room, and we do not stop at the headline every single time.